Good morning and welcome to live Q&A here in the Facebook group, Manage Your Critic, from Overwhelm to Clarity in 7 Steps. And we're a community that are committed to developing our skills and our ability to listen without judgment in order to help other people to have greater clarity and confidence. So welcome, I'm Cheryl Andrews. I'm sorry for the delay. I was meant to be on at 8 o'clock, but I've realised I don't have enough memory on my laptop. So I think that's why it's not working. So I'm having to use my phone, which means I'm also having to hold it up in the air. So hopefully my arm won't get too tired and I won't have to move it around too much while we're talking today. But the good news is, I've been off now for March. I haven't done very many videos and I've been having my time out to recharge, refocus, re-energize, and I'm really excited to be back here with you now, where I'll be doing the live Q&As again every Friday throughout April and May. And we're going to be looking at time, because I want to talk about the 3 things that stop you from turning your dreams into reality. Whether you want to write a book, whether you want to grow a business, whether you want to be the best mum possible, the best dad, whatever it is your dream, to run a marathon, whatever your goals are, if they're not actually becoming reality, if they're not happening, it will come down to 3 things. 1, you don't have clarity of what you want, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. 2, time. And 3, you don't have the right support. So clarity, we've talked a lot about that. If you haven't already seen the videos, check my YouTube channel out. We've got a whole series of videos about different kinds of listening skills that help you get clarity. But once you know what you want, so if you've got it really clear in your mind now, you know exactly what you want, but it still doesn't happen. Often what we do is we tell ourselves we don't have time, or we don't have money, or we don't have this, or we don't have that. So I'd love to hear right now, what is the reason or belief that you have? And I will say belief. What's the story that you're telling yourself as to why you don't get something? And if it is time, just tell me what you're telling yourself. What are you telling other people? I don't have time. I've got too much to do. Whatever it is. Because whenever I'm working with people, if they go, right, what I want is to be a great working mum. If what I want is to lose weight, what I want is to do whatever, okay, then there's usually a story that we tell ourselves afterwards if it's not happening. Because if you've ever noticed that when something is really, really important to you, or if a crisis happens, so let's just say, for example, this is the bit that always makes me sad. I see people who are absolutely exhausted, really wanting some time off, and they're saying, what I want is I need a break, I need to take some time off, I need a rest, and they go, but I can't afford to take any time off, and then they get ill, all right? And they have to take time off. They're forced to take it off. And in the book, Manage Your Critic, I talk a little bit about how, why do we wait for crisis? So often when we're saying we don't have time, in my experience, what is really happening is we don't have clarity. We think we know what we want, but we haven't got the whole picture. And so when I started looking at this, we started to model out with my clients, what is it? How were they making that decision? And what I discovered is that their decisions weren't wide enough and their decisions weren't deep enough. So for example, if you say, I want to lose weight, just because you're on here, Vanessa, and I know you're a Weight Watchers instructor. And it's also playing in my mind. And it's how I started my journey actually as a coach, is if you say you want to lose weight, then if your mind has compartmentalized that as just something for you, but you haven't considered the benefits and the impact or the consequences on your work life and your family life, then when you communicate that thing so I used to work with, when I was a Slim and Well consultant, I used to work with lots and lots of clients in my group where they would be going, oh, but my family are moaning about the food. So the reason it doesn't happen is because you don't have clarity of the benefit to you and your family, the benefit to you and your business. And therefore you're not looking at it it's not a wide, you see it as a separate thing, that this weight loss or this changing your eating is just for you. Likewise, if you are a working mum, maybe you decided to become self-employed so you could be flexible, so you could be there for your children. But then you make a decision about work and you go, right, I need to do X, Y, and Z. But in your subconscious mind, it knows that you want to be at home for the children too. So if it's not clear in what you're communicating to yourself and other people that this is going to be a positive impact on both the family and your well-being, in the back of your mind, you will sabotage yourself. There will be things there. So it's really important to pay attention to the story that you're telling yourself. And unfortunately, the story we tell ourselves, which everybody else seems to believe, because everybody else seems to struggle with time, is we'll say, oh, I don't have time or I can't afford it, because they're common stories that other people can relate to it. So my challenge for you this week is, when you hear yourself saying, I don't have time, I want you to double check. When you this thing you're saying you want that you don't have time for, ask yourself, when will you have time for it? Okay, check with you. Have you asked yourself a when question? When will it be ready? When will be the right time? And also ask, when you get that thing, what happens to your business, your work life, what happens to your family, your personal relationships, and what happens to your own health and wealth and happiness? So check in, because it may be that you're asking for something that you haven't consciously clarified, got clarity of, that it's going to be good for the whole of your system. In which case, the decision that you're communicating to yourself and other people isn't wide enough. And that will be why we will use the excuse, we'll use the mantra of time. So that's the first thing. The second reason why we say we don't have time is each of us have a different time profile. So if I ask somebody, what would you like to have happen? Some people who are very in the moment will answer with what they want to have happen today. People who are very big picture might say what they want to have happen in the next 10 years. And other people will what they want to have happen this week. So if I ask you the question, what would you like to have happen? Just write down the answer. Don't overthink it too much. Just put the response and be curious, what kind of time frame did you naturally go for? And the truth is our brain is, we're living in 3 time zones all at the same time. We've got our past, present and future. And every time a second goes by, we're moving through time constantly. And so our language around time often is not updated sufficiently. And so when we get into overwhelm and we're saying we haven't got time, what it actually means is that we can't perceive when we're going to be able to do things. So that the emotional side of the brain can have lots and lots of ideas, lots of things you've got going on, but the logical part of the brain needs to be able to perceive when that will happen. So yesterday I had a bit of an experience of overwhelm, and so it's not that I don't get overwhelmed. And I did lay down on the floor, and Mark asked me some questions at the end of yesterday, and what was happening for me is I couldn't see in my calendar, in my mind's eye, in my plan, when my next rest stop was. It wasn't true, but it felt like my diary was full of stuff and there was no quiet time. And so when I was lay there, and I can perceive that I've got meditation time I had this morning for 10 minutes. I can see I've got some exercise time later on this evening, when I remember that I can have some time before I go video filming tomorrow, and I've got time in the evening, is that I have to remind my system that I have got time for relaxation. I have got time to download, because I've just been looking at my diary trying to fit clients in, and there wasn't a lot of room left. And so I'd given my system the wrong information. It's like, because I was talking all day about my diary being full, my brain started thinking like my whole day, like from the minute I wake up to the minute I go to bed, was full. And that started my dialogue and my critic thinking I don't have enough time for anything. And that's because I hadn't been talking during the day about my personal time. I've been just talking about work time. So time often isn't the problem. Now, I don't know if you've put any questions at all. I can't see any comments on this way round. I'm not sure if I can, so I might have to check them later. But this is going to be the first of a series, because I'm now writing. I'm going to have to show you the cover because I'm very excited. Let me just lean down. So this is, I don't think it'll be back to front, won't it? So it's Do, Delegate or Ditch. This is one of the programs that I run. But I'm now writing book number 2. So I would like to know below, will you please proactively in the group talk to me about your time challenges, your decision-making challenges? Because if your decisions are not wide enough, you will your subconscious will sabotage you, because there will be information in your system that you haven't taken time to listen to. So the only truth about time really is that we often don't give ourselves time to think and to make sure our decisions are wide enough. We also don't necessarily, when we make a decision, make sure we're looking at short term, medium term and long term. So they're not deep enough, our decisions. So if we're making a decision right now, that is what I call instant gratification. So food's a great one, Vanessa. So if we choose to eat something that tastes nice, because we're depressed or fed up or elated or celebrating, we have it as an association, as a reward or a commiseration, you'll have an instant satisfaction. So that's a decision that works for now, but not necessarily that decision isn't going to work for the long term. So if you continue to eat lots of that kind of food, or you continue not to exercise, then in the over the week you may not lose weight, over the month you may not have as much energy, and your health and well-being would be affected. So sometimes when we're making decisions, they don't suit but us right now, the medium and long and short term. And it's about being aware of that, and being aware of your decision-making process, and are your decisions aligned with what's good for you right now and good for the future. And it's when you consider your different time frames going forward, and bear in mind, all of us, I've got one particular time frame that we'll be more naturally hardwired to consider. So some people are very big blue sky thinkers, and some people are very sensory, very in the moment time thinkers. So we have to develop and practice those other time frames. But also trauma, and it could be serious trauma, but I'm on about things that have upset us or hurt us or caused us pain. Sometimes it can shut our time frames down. So as a protection mechanism, when we're in flight, or freeze in drama, we're very much in survival mode, which is why we'll just like eat the chocolate or avoid something. We'll do something that's quick and easy because it gives us an instant gratification. But that's only because we're in our survival brain. And so when our survival brain's working, we tend to shut time frames off, and we may not consciously be aware of it. I talk about it in the book, actually. One of my clients, who her husband had passed away, and what she noticed as he was nearing the end of his life, she started to not plan past the end of the month because they didn't know if he was going to be there. And then eventually they wouldn't plan past the end of the week, and then eventually she wouldn't plan past the end of the day, and then it got to not past the next hour. And so she stopped developing that muscle to be able to think about the future. And then as the grieving process went on, she was very much in the moment. And then when I started working with her 4 or 5 years ago, we were looking at her business plan and wanting to do a 90-day plan and a 3-year plan. And she physically couldn't visualize 3 years because she hadn't been using that muscle. Her system was shut down because it was too painful to think about the future without her husband. And so we had to work with her to develop that over the Delegate Ditch program. She started to develop her ability to see different time frames. So with me, I'm naturally quite big picture person, and then I can do the detail. I swing between the two time frames. My husband's very much in the detail and doesn't tend to think or perceive the future, not easily. So between the two of us, we can usually balance it out. That's why working with people in a support network can help you get those two different time frames. So that's my quick video for today. It's about 8:20. Vanessa, I'm really sorry if you've put any comments because I can't see them today, but I will look on, when I finish the video, I'll go and have a look on and type responses. Those who've watching the video later, I will be sharing the content for the Do Delegate or Ditch book, which is about managing yourself, time and others. And the first thing we're going to be looking at is making your decision wide enough. So we'll be looking at what is happening when you're working at your best, learning at best, living at best, and then what do you get when you have all of those three things together. Hope that's been useful. I'd love to have your comments below. What do you know now? What difference does knowing that make? And what one thing will you do different as a result of watching today's video? Thanks for sharing. Have a great weekend. Bye.